income coming in. I don't think we'll have a cash flow problem. You'd asked for an update. We've got about $370,000 in account now for transportation tax, which sounds like a lot, but the two grants, or the two proposals, the bids you all asked for will take up about $330,000 of that we have to actually pay out of pocket, then request reimbursements from MoDOT. So we will get 80% of that money back, but we still have to have the money to pay it. And that'll be a situation of juggling contracts and when contractors are working and that type of stuff. You know, it'll be my responsibility to do, but, you know, we need that money, you know, in there to do that. Well, Mr. Palmer talked about the some gravel streets. We haven't decided on a lot of concrete stuff yet, kind of waiting on the bid price on the asphalt.
That was my question. When were we going to look at the gravel street?
Well, I mean, that's what we've already, you know, we've already decided on some gravel streets that we're gonna do. The caveat here is fuel prices have dropped, crude oil prices have dropped. When I talked to the asphalt companies, the end of December, 1st of January, they could not get a price on oil to them at all, period. People just wouldn't even talk to them about it. We would all think that they would be down. One of the newsletters I've subscribed to is saying that they don't know that it's going to be any cheaper. The oil going to the asphalt companies is going to be that much cheaper, like everything else is falling. I don't know why. I can't explain to you. You know, that's the reason we need to put the bids out there and see where we stand, and then we'll see, you know, some of the other things that we've got to look at.
We need to do a motion for a bid of 1,500 tons for 2 years.
That's what, you know, and they may not, nobody may bite on that 2 years, I don't know.
1 and 2 years.
1 and 2 years.
Yeah, but I mean, if we could lock it in for 2 years, that would benefit us, and it would benefit them knowing that they're gonna have 2 years of work.
That's minimum 1,500
Right.
tons. Do we have a motion for that?
Motion.
Second, I guess, okay. Discussion regarding this motion.
Do you have a list of those streets that you've got ready?
Gravel, that we're looking at?
Yes. I don't need, is it public? Is that for public?
No,
notice?
I mean, we haven't done that yet, no. I mean,
I get a lot of people wondering, and I tell them there's a list, you know, that they're going down, and they just wanna know where they are on the list. And is there a way
Right.
we can, or should we make that public?
right now, the committee's met and discussed these twice, and this is what they've come up with, would be Wilson Street, which is on the west side of the preschool, off Washington. It runs down to behind what used to be, what's the fitness center now in McCall's. Ballard Street runs from Van Deventer to Everett, just north of Dr. Kelly's office. Lee Street on the south side of St. Francis from Walnut to Oak. 3rd Street from Cary to the curb, runs on the south side of the Internet Building. Hudson and Nolan, which run south off of George Street, they're dead-end streets, right behind the Social Security office. And all of them have their own particular reasons. Is the reason we, you know, we've discussed these at the last 2 meetings, and this is what the committee recommends.
Haven't done anything in Ward 5 yet? Is there anything coming up?
No, not yet, no.
But we're not done. We're
I
looking
just
at,
think people, if they could see that list and know that they're on there somewhere, it would make a difference.
well, we had a discussion on additional needs and making sure each ward was represented with this as well.
Are you calling out Ward 5?
No, I get calls, you know, I'm right on the border,
That's
and I
good for
get
me,
calls
because I'm
from
getting
Ward
calls
5.
on Ward 5, so that's good.
We have 3 councilmen get calls from Ward
You think the
5.
street
What about,
committee chair would have a
That's
full there?
That's,
I refer, I believe.
we got the engineer out there.
All right, any more discussion regarding the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed.
One more thing, are you done for right now? And Mr. McVeigh, you need to help me on this. One of the things that we would like to do is, establish a reserve fund in with the transportation tax. And we kinda wanna call it the Floyd Street Fund. And, we wanna hold back, last time, if you all recall, when Floyd Street collapsed, we had to do half of it out of capital improvements and half of it out of transportation. And we feel like that we need to be prepared for those events in the future. And so we would like to hold back $250,000 and add an additional $50,000 each year for the next 5 years. And have that in reserve for any additional event like this in the future. Do we need to, Mr. McVeigh, the question is, do we need to have a vote on this, or?
That would be the optimum, I mean, for the council to approve it, the council will
Okay.
have to vote.
All right.
I'm not real sure about calling it the Floyd Street Fund, because we have Floyd Street overlay
Mhm.
and.
Well, we'll just call it the
It's kinda-
reserve fund then
How
officially.
about the parties fund?
Emergency road fund.
Yeah, emergency roads.
fine.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, the fund. There you
So
go.
I'd like to make a motion that we have a reserve fund for out of the transportation tax, that right now we withhold $250,000, add an additional $50,000 each year for 5 years, totaling $500,000. That way we're prepared for, in the event of any additional situation. Okay, that's the motion.
It's in motion, we do have a second from Mr. Weatherwax. Discussion.
No, I,
Is the money there to put?
Yes. We have,
And this would come out of transportation.
yes. No, it's not any change in anything. It's just managing the taxes so where we're prepared for a future
Yes.
incident.
Mayor Craftsman has wanted us to be working on a reserve fund and general revenue and everything else. So I
Yes,
think this lends itself to his original goal.
And we're also setting aside $100,000 a year in general revenue
To achieve that.
reserve account.
Same issue. It won't cost us anything, it just prepares us for what we feel may happen again. Good example, Third Street that we're worried about maybe, I mean, we've got a lot of situations ahead of us, so just trying to be prepared.
What did it cost to fix Floyd Street last time, like $196,000?
It ended up costing about 230. All said and done.
Any more discussion?
We discussed last night also maybe getting one of those speed trailer things for Randy for construction site. Do we want to do that, or we want to wait and get some heads on that?
Oh, we got a motion on the floor right now. We
Wait
got,
till then.
any more discussion regarding the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I think for tonight, that's
Sid,
enough.
I
I
have a
got
question too. Do you still have something, Kenneth? Did you have a question?
No.
Okay, because I had to ask this.
Councilman Wilson, just on what you're asking, Randy and I's already got together, and we're gonna get things worked out, and we're gonna help him where he needs it.
Okay.
Right.
Is there any talk of any kind of work on St. Francis Street where there's abominable potholes? I mean, I know we've been over this, and I know there's a lot of controversy, but
I tried to buy some coal patch today and, tried to buy it last week, and I haven't been able to get ahold of the company. They're not, and I talked to the central office, but the plant's not answering the phone, and they didn't know why today. If we get some in the next few days, we've got a lot of potholes around town, I
well, I'm
understand.
not calling potholes, they're not even
But
potholes.
what we're looking at is we will patch right at the edge of the street. We're not gonna patch the individual driveways to the
Right.
businesses. We're gonna patch the 3 or 4 places that are actually eating into the street.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really getting bad. I mean, for the street, if it's not our streets,
Well, you know,
you're not gonna.
MoDOT has offered to help us, by loaning us coal patch, but if I hate to go out there and borrow coal patch from them if I can't pay it back.
For their highway.
I don't know, I mean, when you say next to the edge of the pavement, how
I'm
far
talking
back
about, I'm
step?
talking about the stuff that's slanting down at, not the driving surface, the slanting surface. Mr. McVeigh, see if I'm saying this correctly, MoDOT stops at the driving surface, which is not the slant, that's the edge of the top at the peak. So I'm gonna be patching this part of it, and at the streets, not in people's driveways.
You know, I just, I'm looking at some of them down through there, it's,
Well,
Mm,
but
private
I
land,
have residents in Kennett calling me, if you're gonna fix their driveways, please come fix mine.
yeah, I understand.
Yeah, I mean, these aren't driveways, the streets crumbling.
I understand, that's what I'm saying, and we're gonna go ahead and go out there and do that.
Randy, I've had complaints, on the, alleyway off of Oak Street between Eighth and Ninth Street.
About what?
Well, you can just about bury the front end of the truck and
The holes?
before you pull into the alleyway.
Didn't we talk about that once before?
Probably that one and many others around town.
But I'm serious, it's probably over 2 foot deep.
And
I'm just passing that on.
I understand. You know, now what's the council's wishes, you know? Do we dip into
Well, it
it?
could be filled up with something, some of the grinding, you got any extra grinding that you,
No. That's the reason I'm wanting to get these, I mean, you know,
Is the
if we're
alley,
gonna,
does
we're
it
gonna,
belong to us?
yeah, the alleys belong to us. You know, if we're gonna start fixing alleys, we're gonna eat into your $250,000 major, because we're talking about hundreds of tractor trailer truckloads to fill the holes in the alleys.
We've never maintained alleys that I can remember.
But you got, I mean, I don't know if it's a 2 foot deep hole, but I mean, that.
There are in
well,
town.
go by there and look, Roger.
There are. But you'll remember when we had the workforce investment, the WIB crew that did the ditches, we also did trim the alleys, and we also filled all the potholes in the alleys, and we filled all of those, and that's where we used all of our gravel reserves and that type of stuff. And that was 2 years ago, and they're back, or 3 years ago now, this is the third winter on it. You know, and we're back in the same situation.
Well, I don't wanna have to say this, but I'm gonna have to say it. Unless the council decides to get rid of the alleys, it is our responsibility. We own the alleys, it is our responsibility to maintain the alleys as is a city street. So, you all as council need to decide where you want to put the money, but they are city streets,
City property.
city property, yes.
But, you know, we're not funded in the current budget to do alley work. I mean, the money's there in the transportation tax, I'm not saying that.
We may have to divert, you know, if it's as bad as Mr. McDowell, I'm
Well,
sure,
it's.
I'm sure you exaggerate by 1.5 foot or so, but.
If it's not 2 foot, it's close to it.
I'm just kidding with you.
No,
Just
I mean,
I had to pick one
There are
up
holes
there.
out there that are that bad.
But seriously though, if there are
It's about a
holes,
foot. I went over there and looked at it.
Mr. McVeigh,
I'll
could
go
we
by
spend
and
the
measure
transportation tax money on it? Well, I think it's simple solution.
I was gonna say, that's the thing, is just understanding the commitment, that we're not talking about one
I
alley
say
at a
just
hole.
fill up the holes that people that complain about, the rest of them don't complain.
I agree.
That's exactly what you're gonna get, that's what you're talking about.
If that's a motion, I'll second
Have
that
mine
motion.
fixed.
I hear your fall rate.
Yeah.
is there a motion on the floor or not?
Was that a motion, Mr. McDowell?
I just passed along what was asked for me, that's no motion, no.
Today he's wearing his street department hat. Last week was code enforcement. So
You never did give me that book.
Do you wanna make that motion?
I would make a motion that we authorize our street commissioner to expend some of the money out of the transportation tax to make repairs to really, really bad places in our alleys.
To be determined by him
Yes.
And complaints.
and puts him in a bad
I
spot.
like that legal wording too. Really.
That's what I'm putting down.
You know, I shouldn't say it this way, but as a person that used to spend a lot of time in the back alleys, on our patrol cars, it really beats them up on some of these, so if we can get the worst ones done, that helps us out a whole lot.
You know, I'll tell you, you know, they're bad. You know. I will ask you, how much, what kind of a commitment are we gonna make?
Use your own.
How much it costs to buy a ton of gravel?
Basically, clay gravel is cheaper than chat. A semi-truckload of chat, about 22 tons, is around $400.
How much is clay gravel?
It's been a long time, Mr. McDowell, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna say it's around 300.
I'm gonna say the chat's gonna be a lot cleaner than the red clay gravel. And so I would say,
Well,
if you can buy it for $400, if it takes 4 truckloads, then buy it, Spend $2,000, get it
How long
done.
is it gonna last? I mean, that stuff's gonna wash out.
Well,
I will say this also slag is pretty good too, it's small size slag.
A lot of that is done by garbage truck.
And it's just
That's
gonna be
common.
over and
95% of the,
Yeah, I agree.
if you go to our dead end alleys, and you go to the alleys that the trash trucks don't go up and down, there may be a few ruts in them, they may hold a little bit of water, but they don't have the big holes in them. And, we're back to the chicken and the egg that we've discussed in here before, not with Mr. Francis, and, maybe some of the
I
others.
just passed that on because it was asked.
I understand, gentlemen, and I don't take it as criticism, but we go back to the deal, we leave the trash trucks in the alleys, and they tear up the alleys, or do we bring them to the streets and they tear up our streets? By saying no more trash trucks in the alleys.
How about we let Mr. Carter use his judgment on what he fill these holes with, and then we look at what our expense is
Yeah,
in
okay,
6
that's-
months, and see what we've actually spent on it over the previous 6 months, and then we decide how we budget for this in the future?
Good comment.
Would that be,
Or not necessarily 6 months, but to the next budget, which won't be
which
6
would
months.
be, right, okay.
Yes.
All right, until July. All right, so I'll amend that till the next budget. Okay, so you would be, your judgment and on what to fill it with, and,
I will go ahead and tell you
And I-
that I will plan on using a mix,
okay,
okay?
and manpower needs to be included in there as well.
But I
But-
definitely look at slag, the smaller size slag is really good.
The fine stuff, what you're
Yeah,
talking about,
fine.
it sets up really good. I don't know if you've ever used it on, but we use it out there at our place. It
What,
works really well.
what we found and what we've used until we used up our supply of millings was we were mixing clay gravel, railroad chat, clay gravel, millings, chat, and railroad chat together. We got a few larger chunks out of the railroad chat, but it wasn't considered big gravel, everywhere, but it worked out a real good mix. We've added it to a lot of our streets until we ran out of the millings, and the grader operators like it. It wasn't like we put on South Jackson where we put the clay down there trying to build up and we got caught, with just clay down there, no chat on top of it, so they weren't having to get all the red clay and that type of stuff. But we found that's been a real good mix for us, so, with your permission, we'll proceed with that type of stuff.
There is a motion on the floor, so we do need to, say yea or nay. That is to authorize street commissioner to take care of the alleys in a, sum it up what? All,
really bad.
really, really bad ones.
That's a really bad one.
Is there, any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that motion passes. I think, Mr. Palmer, you still have the floor.
I think we're squared away.
Okay.
That's enough.
Mr. McDowell, are we good?
Since Mr. Carter hadn't had anything. to
Do
say,
what? No, that's all I had.
Can we get an update on South Jackson?
Met with Mr. Skelton yesterday. Walked in and said, where do we stand on this? And he said, that's really a mess down there. And I said, yeah. I said, and Shane was with me, he's not here. And Shane said, well, why in the world do you think we brought it to you? He's done a lot of work. We got a lot of elevation shots. Mr. Panousis is helping us. We're working over there. We've looked at several options already. He said that last week they were looking at it on the computer, on the drawings, and they needed to come back this week and get some more shots. It's not ready. I haven't seen it, but we're making progress. I mean, work is being worked on towards that. okay?
At least we can report that to the people that
Right.
are
And,
living down there.
you know, I mean, again, we don't have a good solution, you know, at this point. I'm not saying we don't have a solution and we can't do different things, but, you know, he's basically saying, finding the same thing we shot at, you know, with just, you know, basic equipment and not doing it real scientifically, you know, but just shooting different elevations. And, you know, we found out we had a problem, and that's the reason we turned to an engineer to try to get the stuff. And I know, Steve, you've talked to him a couple of times, I think, about that, you know, and, you know, it's not just, we think we can work something out, but it's not just simple as saying, you know, okay, we're going to do this, okay? So, it is a work in progress.
All right. Like I said, I went, Finance Committee, anything from you? Okay, guess that's got every committee covered. I was gonna catch on the department reports. We still have, I think Randy already did his report.
No, I actually have a couple of things, if you would, tolerate me.
Oh, I'm not done yet.
Oh, okay.
One second, please.
I'm sorry.
There's a couple more items I have on my little to-do list before I get out of office here in a little over a month and a half, 2 months. One item that has come up in the council in the past, and I really feel like we should give it our all, is the vegetation pickup. I know it's been tossed around. Council, I kind of feel like council does not want to spend money on it, and I can understand their point of view or your point of view. But it is a promise, or whatever you might want to call it, when we did make agreement with the taxpayers, pass this, that we'll give you these services in exchange for your vote. It did pass. They agreed to it by passing the change. And yes, we did have a try at it. Probably a little more restrictions than what was needed. I'm not asking the council to put money into this. I'm asking the council to support me working with the street department to, Randy and I have been talking about modifying a current dump truck using a park board's chipper. So there's very little cost in this, and give it a legit try. That way we can at least tell our citizens, yes, we did try to owe it up to our obligation, but there was not the need for it. But give it 6 months or 1 year, one or the other, but give it a legit try, and that way we can at least say that we did try to do our obligation. Just wasn't there. Right now, we don't have any information to stand by and say, hey, this is the reason why we're not doing it.
So does this mean if we had yard waste, we drag it out to the curb, we'd call Randy and say, we've got some we need picked up, and then they'd come?
Yes, sir. That's what I know some of you were not on the council time. I'm saying we, just for convenience, is easier. But it is something that we did stay, sitting right here in this room and mention it and put it on paper. I do feel like we do need to owe up to that. It's just my opinion. You don't have to vote that way, but at least it's off my list of, it's off my back.
Well, if we're gonna do it, we need to do it for a full year to try it out, because it's seasonal. And so there would be, to me, no sense in doing it for 6 months. It would need to be an annual, or an attempt to try it for a year.
I don't think fall would be the big time when you would.
So that's gonna
Be
be
honest,
on Randy's department?
It would be, but I would ask that if the service, this new, well, we've already proposed to the citizens, if the workload gets too much, I would think it'd be Randy's place to come up to the council and say, hey, this is too much workload, we got too many requests for this, we need the right equipment to get the job done. You know?
I mean, that's what I thought, you know, he's short help anyway. And, you know, and it's,
He's down one person, right? You haven't hired the one person yet.
so that,
But what I was proposing, what I was gonna talk to Randy about at least is we have a full-time compost facility person out there. 2 or 3 days a week, that facility would be open. The other time, that one person plus one person off the street department would be taking care of the pickup.
So you're gonna close the compost place down a couple of days or something?
Just a couple of days or whatever it may be.
Close to 3 days.
So that's,
In all honesty, I've not had anybody in Ward 4 contact me and say, what about picking up my tree line? Not a single person. Since all this, it's been 4 years ago that you made that promise, and I've not had a single person ever come to me and say, I need somebody to haul my tree down.
Do you haul leaves too?
Yes, sir. What I would think is 1 year from now, if this service is working, that maybe the council would like to visit getting rid of the burning in town, getting rid of the burning of the leaves in town. If there's a way of disposing the vegetation, you could do that. But I would feel like if there's not a way that 89-year-old grandma with a car cannot get rid of it easily, that you can't really outlaw them. I would think it'd be unfair to outlaw. But if you do have a means, you could, in practicality, get rid of the burning in town. Or at least the unrestricted burning in town.
Probably that 89-year-old grandmother is going to have someone clean up her yard anyway, and in that case, they ought to be the one to haul them off.
That's gonna cost her extra.
But
I love the idea of service, I think it'd be great, but I just,
Can we afford it? I guess
that's
that's
the
the bottom
thing.
line. Can we
Maybe
afford
there'll
it?
be a
Because
time we can, but right now, I don't know that right
I
now
don't
is
see
it.
closing the compost place and having that guy do whatever it is,
Well, it's closed 1 day a week already, it's closed on Monday.
yeah, it's that
Yeah.
okay, huh?
But
I'd rather have them get the stuff brought out to us for free and citizens make use of the compost.
yeah, but if we were not gonna do this, we should have said, hey, I don't like that part when we made this agreement with the taxpayers. I wish that was said before we made that agreement.
We tried this once before, and it kind of fell on his face, probably due to some of the restrictions we put on it. The stuff had to be, I don't know, if it was 3
Bundled
foot.
in.
Bundled.
Come pick it up.
Well,
It's,
we really
That's
laid,
what they do now.
get rid of some
They
trash,
can call
real
them,
different
come get it.
choice.
Oh, did they?
So, we could give it a shot, if it falls on its face again, then,
done,
Start with,
headstone, forget it.
exactly.
But we're not gonna
One day a
invest
week.
any money in it, we've already got a dump truck or whatever.
We have a dump truck, making a cover for it, a removable cover, which can be done in-house with our equipment we have. And then Park Board has a chipper. Probably have to put a little money into it, minimum amount of money, but we have set aside cleanup money.
Can you chip leaves?
Leaves you something to dump in.
Y'all can.
I'm like, we're proposing a different way to play with other than total compost.
I just don't think we should waste the money or
And I
time.
think, again, it's a good idea. Labor wise, figure out another way other than total.
My neighbor can't
That's
haul her
fine.
limbs off, I haul them off for
That's
her
just a suggestion.
as a
Mr.
neighbor.
Carter, what's the activity daily at the
I don't
compost?
think that's,
And your report today, back on it, I just gave you was for a month because it wasn't at the last meeting, but I think there was 236 loads brought in out there.
What's volume, but what about day-to-day activity? Are you busy 5 days a week?
The time he pushes up limbs, rakes up the leaves out there that blow every time when the leaves are brought in, turns the rolls, checks in the people for the roll-off.
it's just gonna push you.
There's not very much dead time out there. In the summertime, he has to mow facility, weed eat it, and that type of stuff.
What if we split the duties, half a day with the compost and half a day on the roll?
It'll take extra time from my personnel to help do the work down there. Not matter to turn the rows and keep the facility looking nice. And that's gonna eliminate some of the time that the dumpsters in use available down there too.
Do we have to have the compost? Do we not just burn everything that comes out there?
No, DNR, won't we?
Let's burn twice a year.
Well, that'd be on how big a pile of leaves would you have?
I don't know if
But
it's,
your leaves, your leaves are gonna smolder for an extended period of time after they get set out there and get wet.
I thought we're dumping leaves out there now on the
No.
brush pile.
No, we're dumping limbs. All the leaves go, and the chips from city like gas and water go into the compost. They're composted and sold back.
I mean, there may be, some people I've seen where they have some tree limb where they
Yeah.
back up there, but they've also got some leaves and whatever dumped on them, when they
They-
pull it off.
yeah, occasionally there's some, you know, but I mean, it's because they've got a mixed load, and he tries to educate the people to keep them separate, you know.
It looks to me like that's working real well, I hate to mess with it.
You know,
Let's do
we've had
this, let's
other
put it on
towns-
old business, next agenda.